Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today, I'm talking with J.A. Dauber. He's a professor at Columbia University and the author of a young adult novel about a teenager supervillain and a number of adult nonfiction and humor books too. He's here today to talk about his middle grade debut, Press 1 for Invasion. In it, Matt, who just wanted a cell phone, ends up being responsible for saving the world from an alien invasion. It's action-packed. It's a lot of fun. It will likely having you look at your school staff and your coworkers in a whole new light. And I can't wait to talk about it with him. So let's get right to the episode. Jeremy, welcome to KidLit Love. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really, it's a pleasure to be here. I can't wait for this conversation. It's going to be super fun.
Me either. Middle grade readers are going to love this book. I loved this book as an adult reader. Middle grade readers are going to love it. And I've been waiting to say this to you. They are going to eat it up. Pun intended, listeners. You'll get it when we get to the conversation and you read the book. But I've been waiting to say that to you.
That's funny. Thank you. Yeah, it's a good line. I'm going to use it.
Yeah, 100%. So before we actually talk about Press 1 for Invasion today, I would love to know about you and your journey through, you have a journey through writing all the way to your middle grade debut, and I'd love for you to tell listeners a little bit about it.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'd be delighted. And, I think, I mean, my guess is that many of the people listening to this are parents of middle grade students rather than the students themselves. And so you probably remember when you were a kid, all the books you loved to read, the books about robots and aliens and superheroes and all that. And I ended up never really stopping loving any of those books. Now, and as I grew up, I became interested in other things too. But as I often say to people, you never grow up and say, all I want to do as a writer is write monographs on, early modern literature. That wasn't sort of your dream. As again, you want to write about this thing, and that was something that always stayed with me through my time. And I'm entering my 26th year as a professor at Columbia. And I just said, this is something that I've wanted to do. And it turns out that I really, as I also became a parent and I have kids who are this of my own, I wanted to write something that my kids would be interested in reading. One thing kind of led to another, and I started writing every day. And years later, this is writing fiction every day, I should say. And this is what came out. We can talk more about that, but that's sort of the story.
Yeah. So based on the ages of your kids, have they read the book yet? Are they gearing up to read the book yet? I know we haven't talked about it yet with listeners, but I'm curious about what they think about Dad writing this really cool book.
Well, I will say that on the other side of the ledger, my nonfiction books, they've been widely reviewed. I have something on the cover of the New York Times Book Review, which was very nice. But the best review I've ever gotten, and I'm sure will ever get, is that my 12-year-old and 10-year-old, the two boys, my two older children, they each read the book in one sitting, and my 10-year-old, who has recently learned the phrase "no offense" as a get out of jail free card for basically anything. So he is not a diplomat. He's not a natural diplomat, right? He's the one who the book is dedicated to. He actually looked at me and he said, "Dad, I think a lot of kids are going to like this. And I was like, forget it, New York Times. Like
That's right.
this is it. This is all I need. And they are honest, and they liked it, and that meant just the world to me. So,
Yeah, it is a kind of one sitting kind of book. Like kids are going to open it up, they're going to get the premise, you're going to hook them with the cell phone, you're going to hook them with what happens next. And then it is one of those, I really can't put it down until I find out
well,
exactly what's going to happen.
Well, that means a lot coming from you. I mean, thank you. And I think even, as a professor of literature, which is one of the, and culture, which is one of the things that I do at Columbia, I've always been more interested in narrative. That's if you look at these other books, that rather than uh, uh, imagery or theme or those kinds of things. And I love seeing what makes a story go. And I think for me, it sounds like that comes through a little bit in the book. I'm just like, well, what happens next? And then what happens next? And then what happens after that? And because you have to have that momentum that kind of runs, and I think here it really does run like a freight train. They're in this situation and this doesn't stop until it does.
Yeah, it really is constant action packed movement. No, I know a lot of times books often compete with other forms of media and other devices, and this book is a good antidote to needing to scroll because you need to turn the page to figure out what comes next for sure.
One of the things I think about, thank you. I mean, thank you. One of the things I think about, sort of in again, sort of some of my scholarly work, is what I sometimes call, attention break moments, right? Where you say, okay, this is something. I mean, the most famous version of this is there was an app. There used to be an app, maybe it still exists, for people who watch movies to know when you can leave to use the restroom in the middle of the movie, when it kind of says a low moment. And I was like,
Wow.
why? Well, why put in the take out those moments? Just try and remove them as much as possible, and just go bam, bam, bam. And instead of you can't have all action at sort of the red line all the time, but you can have humor, and you can have sort of these moments that are still kind of engrossing, and that's the hope for the book, and I'm glad that that's how you reacted to it.
Oh, definitely. I think we've teased listeners enough. So let's tell them a little bit about the book. I would love for you to give us the quick summary of the book without, the spoilers, of course, but give us the overview.
Okay, well, I'll do that, and I will do that. But I'll do that by telling listeners, the story behind how I came to the book, so to speak.
Yes, please.
Uh, which I think probably different writers, and you would know better than me, but different writers have different ways of sort of finding their book. But for me, this one and the other one that you mentioned really started with images, like a particular image in my head, and in this one, it's a very straightforward image, a little hard, which is that you have this kid who's 10ish, and he has a cell phone in his hand, and he looks through the cell phone at his crossing guard, and the crossing guard, like in real life, looks like a normal human being, but through the lens of the phone looks like a goggle-eyed alien monster in a crossing guard suit. And then he takes down the phone from his eyes, and it's all the same, and he puts the phone back up, and it's the monster. And I kind of wrote the book to figure out what was the story behind that sequence of images, let's say that little sequence, that little film sequence. um and that add all these questions. Why does this kid, it's probably not his phone, it's sort of right, so why does he have, and so what it determined was that the plot becomes, here's this kid who really wants a cell phone. He doesn't have one of his own because he's 10, and this is a time period when kids really want it, and their parents, I know this from experience, are like, well, maybe not yet, right? And he finds this phone on the street, and he's like, Yahtzee, fantastic. And he then has this sequence of images, and you say, well, what's happening? Well, clearly this is some kind of alien or extraterrestrial or something like that. And so, but is in disguise. And so it turns out that this crossing guard is kind of the beachhead of an alien invasion of Earth. And that Matt, this kid with the phone, is the only one who can kind of see through the phone this alien kind of amongst them. And it turns out that there is a second alien sort of in the area who is his lunch lady. But the lunch lady has kind of switched sides. We find this all out quite early in the book. She switched sides. She's now trying to stop the invasion, but she needs Matt to help her, and thus has dropped the phone for him to find. And then they're going to team up and try and stop this alien invasion of Earth. And that's the premise of the book. How that happens, I will spoil it enough to say that this middle grade novel does not end with the Earth reduced to a smoking cinder. But beyond that, I'm not going to tell you anything. And the fun, of course, it's like any kind of James Bond. James Bond is going to be fine at the end, right? But it's how you get there that's the fun.
Yes. Yes. And I remember thinking as I was reading the book, because you have left out very strategically, and maybe they could figure out a little bit from my pun, but why there is going to be an alien invasion. And I just kept thinking, thank goodness Matt was nice to the lunch lady.
I think that's right because there's a line in this, and this doesn't really can give anything away. That part of the reason that it's not sort of any particular physical or special skills, particularly that are the reason that Matt becomes. It's because he's nice. It's because
Yes.
and he's and I will say, and I hope Stephanie that you'll agree with this maybe, but that I tried to not make Matt like a plaster saint kind of character, right? I mean, he makes mistakes. He sometimes is a little he's not a perfect kid like all of our kids. But he tries to do the right thing most of the time, which is really what we can hope for. And that's kind of recognized. But yeah, it's not an obvious thing from the character's perspective that they're going to be able to stop this thing, which is what raises the stakes.
Yes. Yes. And while, we've been talking about the action-packed nature of it, there's always something happening. What is going to happen? Why are they going to invade? How are we going to stop it? There's all of this constant action going on that really propels the reader. But I also love that you have these undertones, these under themes, perhaps I should say, of friendship, of family, even a little bit, of crush somewhere in there. So you've got all this action that's just moving the story along, and then all of this other richness that readers can connect to as well. And I'd love for you to talk about those elements kind of wrapped up in the action of this amazingly fun adventure.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think thank you for saying that. I mean, again, that really means a lot. I mean, I think that one of the things that I tried to do was put myself as much as possible, and through the perspective of sort of these kids, and say, well, it is not obvious that a kid is going to be able to literally have the fate of the world on his shoulders, right? So, what are the reasons, and what are the ways in which that can work? That you can become sort of a regular, and I can say from my own children, that they, and I remember this kind of vaguely through a glass darkly, from my 10-year-old years, we all dream of being the hero.
Yeah.
But in quote unquote real life, if something were to happen, why would you do it about your friends? You do it about your family. You do it because you might have a crush on somebody and you don't want to look too stupid in front of them. And those may not be the most noble reasons in the world, although some of them end up being that, right? But they feel much more, to me, real, even in this fantastic, hopefully in both senses, but certainly in fantasy oriented situation. And that I think helps keep the narrative grounded in some ways. That hopefully that he does feel like he's making real choices based on sort of real feelings. And the last thing I'll say, and I think this doesn't really give anything away, but is that one of the things that really emerged for me in writing the book as a theme is this theme that individuals matter, right? Each person, each, as it turns out, entity, they are human is not maybe quite the right word, but they are individuals, and they should be cherished and loved, and valued because they are unique and individual. And that felt very nice to find in the book, so to speak, as I kind of wrote it.
It was a beautiful thread in the book, and it was one of the things that I was going to bring up with you, because especially as an adult reader, I think we're primed, of course, to look for some of these themes. But what I think just happens naturally as the kids get engrossed in this story is those questions do come up of like, what makes us us? What makes us humans different from other entities, from other ways of thinking? And at one point, Mrs. McGillicuddy, the lunch lady, she says, "Do you know what a precious gift that is to be able to encounter the delightfully unexpected, right? It's the individual versus this hive mind. Just such big beauty in that concept that, is easy to forget. It's easy to forget that we this uniqueness, this individuality, this authenticity that sometimes we hide and sometimes we're afraid of, especially in middle grade. It's really what makes us, right? And that's what makes everybody worth something. And that's what I loved.
Thank you. No, thank you. And I think, and just to amplify that a little bit for the listeners, again, this gives a little bit away, but not right. The aliens in question in general are part of something like a hive mind, right? So they don't have this individuality, but on Earth, because maybe of the ozone layer, it's not clear. I didn't go into details. That breaks down a little bit. So they begin to think like individuals, and so they begin to realize, especially this one who changes sides, that these are individual lives to be cherished. If you were a hive collective consciousness, if one member is, taken, eliminated, it's not such a big deal because it's all part of one. But that's not who we are as human beings. That's not how we should treat each other. And that's not, and as you say, it's something that, almost viewed through the eyes of a stranger, in this case, a newly sort of individualized alien, right? Or just us looking at it again through the eyes of a book that sort of makes the point more explicitly. It comes to be something that we can cherish. And I hope, Stephanie, you agree. This is not laid on with a trowel in any kind of
Right.
way. It kind of comes out, but it's also tied into the narrative. It's kind of why she changes sides in the first place.
Yeah. That's the beauty, I think, of middle grade novels like this. It's a story that's propelling the reader, and they just can't help but get those undertones of those themes and those lessons along the way, which make them very natural and feel just very, I don't know what the word is, but they just come. They just come to you. And it is this way of being invited into it, not, oh my gosh, what is this book that I'm reading? And that's definitely what I feel in this. I'm here for the action, but I'm getting all of the other things as a result because of it.
I think that's right. I mean, and it's funny because as you're saying, a lot of this grows in the telling rather than anything planned on my part. I mean, one of the things that my editor, the wonderful Kara Sargent at Simon and Schuster Aladdin, said that she liked about it. She was like, you know, we want books that are just entertaining, right? And I know this even from again the other side of my scholarly work when I look at things from popular literature from the early modern period in different languages and things like that. And you say, people want story. They want stories about ghosts and they want stories about witches and they want stories about, all sorts of things, right? But, the a lot of other things to think about how the world works or how it should work come in just in the process. But that's not why people are attracted. So I think that the kids will be just like, whoa, this is a cool alien story and there's, lots of action and there's and there's funny stuff and then on the side they'll be like, oh,
That's right. Yeah. The other stuff just seeps in, which is the beauty of books.
yeah.
So as you think about putting this book out into the world, getting it into middle grade readers' hands, what is your hope for the book or your hope for readers reading the book?
Well, I will say that my deep and profound hope is that they like it and tell 25 of their friends to buy copies.
Yes, and they will. I
And
know they will.
that's my but in addition to that, I mean, my hope is just that they say, in some ways, the same thing that I had when I was their age, that I was just like, I just loved the time that I spent with this
Yeah.
book, with reading. That's really what I just remember these long weekend afternoons where I would, especially in the winter, where I would sit and we'd have lunch and I go to my room and I wouldn't come back down for hours because I would just be lost. And it was not that I thought this was good for me. It was not edifying. It was just like this was a world that had just captured me.
Yeah.
And if kids came to me and said, or did some version of that, or their parents came to me and told me that the kids did some, that would be just, amazing.
Yeah. Full circle, paying it
Also,
back to the
also,
next generation, doing the same.
yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't help but hope as I was reading that I would find one of those cool cameras, though. I would really love to hold that up to some people in my world.
I, I think that's also the thing. I mean, all and technically, I suppose, this is science fiction, but science fiction is a branch of fantasy, right? Is that one of the things I remember very clearly, um, thinking as a kid, that are my children's age, especially my middle child, the 10-year-old's age, is that there's a world sort of right around and next to this one that has these portals to these amazing opportunities to sort of be in the world and change the world that the regular world seems much too quotidian and humdrum about. And this phone kind of does that. It's not really anything other than a magic wand,
Yeah.
uh, in some ways, and he gets to use some of it, but that's the amazing thing with this technology, this alien technology, is who knows what else there is, right?
Right. Right. Oh, which is kind of, what a lot of people are thinking about right now in the age of technology in our world. What is coming next too?
For sure. For sure.
Oh gosh. So tell us, I hope that there's more. Like what are you working on in the future? This is your middle grade debut, but what do you have on your mind for the future?
Well, I'll say that first. I really hope, and this depends on all you listeners and your friends and your friends' friends, that Matt and Marcella's his friend, Matt, their adventures are not finished. I think that you can read this book, feel very satisfied with the story. The story comes to it, but there's more possibilities, and I really hope that I'll get a chance to tell them. And that really depends on how the book is received and all that. That's one thing. I'm working on another middle grade book, which is a kind of time travel novel set in ancient Greece. Um, and that I think could be a possibility. And those are the two real things that are sort of being juggled right now.
Love
So
it.
yeah.
I love it. So where can listeners find you online so they can keep up with what might be coming in the future and just learn more about you and your other books too?
Well, the first place to go is going to be by the time you hear this, it will be up and running. My website, which is JADauber.com, and that should say, where you can get the book, if what appearances I'll be doing. You can read a little bit more about it, all those kinds of things. That's one place. And if for the grown-ups, you are on the social media app Blue Sky, you can follow me there at Jeremy Dauber. I go by JA for the middle grade books, but Jeremy Dauber at Blue Sky. And I would love to hear from people and and talk about the book. That'd be amazing.
Well, I will make sure to put links to these as well as, of course, links to Press One for Invasion in the show notes to make it easy for everybody to find.
And I will just add that as of September 9th, which is the book's publication date, anyone can find it wherever books are. It's in bookstores, on your various online purchasing possibilities. It's going to be everywhere. Audiobook, ebook, it's all possible. Yeah.
Yeah, and listeners, you're going to want this one. This one's exciting. Yeah. Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm so excited to be part of your launch and putting this middle grade book out into the world. And I know they're going to love it.
This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for having me. This was great.
Yeah, you're welcome. And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of Kid Lit Love. Thanks for listening.